Okay, here we are back on the farm in Asheville, North Carolina. My friend's farm. He's generous enough to let us stay here once in a while. Got lots of good projects planned this week. Can't wait to show you all what kind of projects we have. But for now, we're going to just get some greens for dinner. We're going to harvest some greens, steam them up. We've already got a bunch of beet greens in the house. And right there I can see a whole bunch of chard, Swiss chard that we're going to pick. We've got a bunch of peas, snap peas, in the house also. Right now we're going to shuck or hull some of those. There you can see a snap pea, also known as snow peas. Not sure exactly what the difference is. We're going to harvest some of that chard or that kale over there, and maybe some of those collards over in the corner. Well, let's start over here with this regular Swiss chard. It's not red Swiss chard. We do have some of that somewhere in this garden, but we're going to take a look for that in a few minutes. But for now, I'm just going to harvest these big leaves. I'm going to just cut them off with our little Swiss Army knife, the bottom ones first, and leave the inner smaller ones for the next harvest. So we're only going to take about maybe 4 or 5 of these, because we are going to harvest some kale and probably some collards over there in the corner. So there's some beautiful Swiss chard leaves. Big, fat, mature, juicy. You don't want to let these get any bigger than that. They turn a little bit bigger, or bitter, when you let them get bigger. A couple from over here. Again, you're harvesting the outer leaves. The biggest ones are on the outer edge of the plant. I got 2 more, and we're leaving the inner ones. There's some parsley right there, and right next door is some lettuce. We're not going to harvest any of that tonight. So let's go ahead and go over in the corner, like I mentioned, and grab some of this kale. 2 varieties right here. Got dwarf kale and curly kale. I'm gonna put down our chard for now. Now this kale got eaten a little bit by aphids, but we're gonna get the leaves that have not been largely impacted by aphids. So those about 4 of them right there look pretty good. This one we're gonna toss. Oh, no, actually that one's okay. We can eat that one. A couple over here. This one's turned yellow, so we're not gonna save that one. That's going in the compost. This one's pretty good. We're gonna cut these up and put them in a steaming kettle for the stalks and all. We're going to eat all these stalks because these are actually tender stalks, and there's just as many vitamins in those stalks as there are in the leaves. Well, these really need to be thinned out. They're really crowded, and they're inhibiting each other's growth by being so crowded in here. A lot of this kale is turning brown and yellow already. It's past its prime. It's a spring crop typically, and now we're almost into summer. We're in late June now, so the spring crops are starting to get wilted by the heat of the summer. This one's covered with aphids, so typically we destroy that instead of putting it in the compost, because if you put this in the compost, it just keeps propagating aphids. but it's way too late for that. This garden unfortunately gets aphid infestation every year because they've been in this soil on this property for decades, these aphids. This one's got a fair amount of aphids. So I guess we're going to focus more on the curly kale. The curly kale doesn't look like it's impacted by aphids as much as the dwarf kale. Ironically, the dwarf kale over here on the left is bigger than the curly kale. Go figure. Dwarf kale that's bigger than the curly kale over here. Alright, let's take a few more of these curly kale leaves. These younger ones, smaller ones, are aphid free. No aphids on those. A lot of them turned yellow and brown already. So we're really getting close to the last of the crop here in terms of kale. This one's not too bad. That's a piece of dwarf kale. Not too bad. It's been eaten, but there's no aphids left on it. So we're going to take that leaf. And then a couple of more. Oh, that one's brown, yellow. So you want to harvest these, cut them all the way down close to the stem. And last but not least, we're going to go over here and get some collard greens from this batch right behind me. And again, we've got to watch out for bugs. This one is been eaten, but there's no bugs currently on it. We're going to harvest about maybe 10 of these. No bugs on that one. So these, oh, there's a worm. Got to get rid of that worm so we don't be getting extra protein that we're not wanting from those worms. Again, you're cutting these off right down close to the stem of the plant. We're going to do a little weeding while we're in here. Get rid of some of these weeds. There's a nice good sized leaf. Oh, that one's turning brown. That's going in the compost bin. There's a nice younger one that's got some kind of lesions on it, or leeches. They're not currently on there, but they formed some kind of a lesion. Let's see, 1, 2 from over here, a third one. No bugs. No bugs. Again, plenty of holes from bugs previously munching on it, but no current bugs on these leaves that I can see by a quick glance. We're going to trim that one a little bit by hand. And so now we've got about 10 leaves of collards, and 2 more makes 12. Alright, so that's enough collards, and we're going to take that little pile into the house and steam it up.